Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the wrestling podcast, Getting Over. We are talking Backlash, or as it's formerly known, WrestleMania Backlash. Not entirely sure what's going on there, but yeah, that's what it's called. We've got the usual Getting Over crew, and we're predicting what we think is going to happen in the matches that are coming up this weekend. If you're watching us on YouTube, not only do you get to see our guest introducer, our special video introduction, you also get the opportunity to subscribe and be one of our lovely YouTube subscribers. If you are just listening along, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you could subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, that would be amazing. So here we go. This is CookieCast, Getting Over.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here. You're listening to... Oh, I forgot this. Danhausen, very nice, very evil, very famous. Almost forgot the most important part of this message to you. Anyways, you're listening to the Getting Over podcast on CookieCast. Isn't that nice? Ooh, cookies. Anyways, it would be very nice and very evil if you would like, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube Housing. Love that, Danhausen.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you will, welcome along. It's time for Getting Over, number 33, and this time we are here for WrestleMania Backlash. You might already know how I feel about that if you listen to the last episode. We'd normally start by introducing everyone, so let's go for that. Who have we got with us today, you might ask? Well, for those of you on YouTube, you'll be able to see we have the ever-present Mr. Andy Cook, the head honcho of CookieCast. The bearded one, possibly above him to me, but the other bearded gentleman, Mr. Matthew Moore. And the ever so slightly orange-tinged one in the other corner, Mr. Paul Williams. He gets
Hello!
We would normally start the podcast with the predictions title. Things are a little bit different this time because we had an interim WrestleMania roundup. That Mr. Cook is currently showing that, and basically rubbing it in that he didn't ever post it to Matt. So yeah,
Post office was closed. I tried many times. Closed though. Sorry.
many times that you can count on no fingers. So we already know who the reigning champion is by that. So after an absolutely dominant performance through the WrestleMania predictions, Mr. Moore is the current champion. After the biggest show of the year as well, 2 nights worth of predictions. So again, kudos. But if you've not listened to the WrestleMania Roundup episode, sorry, we've just spoiled that for you. But feel free to head on back, pause this, go back, catch up, like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff as well in the middle. But we will see if Matt can hold on, or indeed our brand new, first time ever, if you want, guest predictor can relieve Matthew of the hardware. So, news in wrestling since the last podcast. Quite a bit has happened in what feels like a short space of time. Last time around, one of the things that we talked about was the now seemingly annual dark day of the 15th of April and the release of a few notable superstars. Well, since the last podcast, there's been a bit of a mixed bag of comings and goings on both ends of the spectrum. The hiring of a new superstar, or rather the return of an old one, in all red everything, Miss Eva Marie. What a bizarre move this is for me. I mean, vignettes on Raw state that she's come back to where she started to pass on what she's learned in the journey. I mean, I don't want to go in hard right from the off, but I mean, it's not going to take long, is it? Really? What do you guys think?
Has she got herself some like ringwear that doesn't malfunction every 5 minutes, or because I don't remember seeing her wrestle a match, so I remember it was like a a kind of hokey kind of thing of every match something happened with her ring outfit and someone had to cover her up and off she went again, and then next thing she'd been released. I've got zero interest. I was like, why are we so excited about this? You know, yeah.
In all, like in the interest of fairness and a bit more seriousness, at the time when she was around last time around, it kind of like was the cool thing. Like people, it was cool to boo Roman Reigns, and it was cool to like crap all over Eva Marie's wrestling skills at the time. But to be fair to her, she does seemingly have been and put a bit of work in the background. Obviously, she was famously trained last time around by Brian Kendrick, but I think that like more work has gone in since. So let's give her a chance. In the sense of let's see what she's like when the bell rings. But I'm gonna drop in with my Ready to Grumble nice and early this time around. Somebody hit me with a timer, please. I might even run over this time. Who knows? We'll see.
There's no running over it. There's no running over.
Right. Hit me, Paul. Go on.
Right. Hit you? Yeah, okay.
Well,
I can serve you a nice plate of chops if you'd like, yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
When generally speaking storylines are already on their arse, why are we being force-fed with recycling of dead angles? So this time round, she's coming back and it's been billed as Evolution. A bit like Emma-lution last time, and a bit like every other time they've tried to have somebody dress as a model, like Carmella in the interim. It's just not working. Just pack it in. Just let them wrestle, please. Please. There we go. Right on the time. So that was my 30 seconds. For those of you that are new to the podcast, we do Ready to Grumble nearly every time. If there's something that takes our fancy, or not, as the case may be, we get 30 seconds to mention it, and then never to be mentioned again. Thrown over the top rope, if you like. So, where to next? So we've mentioned that there was the hiring of Eva Marie. There has also been another departure, but rather than a release this time, it's due to the expiration of a contract. But what a big contract it was. Daniel Bryan's contract ran out a short time ago, and his final match took place on SmackDown a couple of weeks back. And essentially, it was Universal title versus employment against Roman Reigns. To suit the current situation, of course, Daniel Bryan lost and has subsequently been moved to the alumni section on WWE.com. It kind of remains to be seen if he's going to turn up on another element of WWE programming at some point. I mean, I don't think there's one person, certainly in this room, but maybe even in the extended planet, that would be absolutely salivating if he turned up in NXT. That would be incredible. But obviously, there's plenty of other places he could go as well. Like, what do you guys make of that?
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because like I was listening to something the other day, and apparently he was really upset about the fact that WWE wouldn't clear him to wrestle previously, and he had to go and like pay for his own like doctors to clear him and go with this evidence to WWE. And you kind of think, maybe that's like really stuck with him, and he wants to go and wrestle. And if he's not got much time left wrestling, then maybe he's just going to go and wrestle everybody. Like, he's got a list of people who he wants to go and wrestle. He'll go to Ring of Honor for 3 months if he wants. If there's people in Ring of Honor that he wants to wrestle, if New Japan, if there's people who wants to wrestle in New Japan, he's when he did the was it the Cruiserweight tournament, he seems to be really like well kind of up on his wrestling. He seems to watch not just WWE stuff. He seems to watch like all stuff. So like Zack Sabre Jr. for example, if he wants to go and do technical stuff, does he want to go over to Japan and kind of spend some time wrestling there? Obviously there's the usual kind of smark kind of reference to AEW, but I think maybe he'll just spend even if it's just 6 months of just possibly doing his own thing and wrestling everyone. I mean, the best thing that I heard someone say was, and I think they were taking the piss, was like, is it Triller, the thing that Jake Paul fights on? if they just said to him and CM Punk, here you go, here's 10 million each, you book the match, you do the kind of thing, we'll just stick it on the undercard of the next Jake Paul thing, and people will pay to watch that, and you kind of think, yeah, fine, if he's not got that much, and he'll get a nice job in WWE as a trainer or as a writer or something like that, and obviously he's not gonna. I think when people mention AEW, I think that one's the least likely one, because obviously Total Bellas is the cash cow in that household, and they're not going to want to piss off, anyone at WWE, because it'll be a surefire way of getting rid of that particular program. So I think that I'd be very, very surprised if he turned up in AEW. Very, very surprised.
I agree with that.
There was something I'd heard on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, where they'd said something like, if you were an investor that had like an interest in wrestling, would this not be the sort of time where, if you've seen how well AEW's done with their release and stuff like that, would you not sort of think, well, maybe test the waters, throw some money at CM Punk, maybe throw some money at Daniel Bryan, some of the other guys who haven't been signed, maybe like a Will Ospreay or something like that, see if you can get him out of his Japan deal. Just like sort of see if you can put together like a third American company to sort of challenge the other two and stuff like that, and just have those two as like your front runners and stuff like that. And it's almost like if he has left, I don't know if it's a case of he has actually left or not, but is it almost like the Cody Rhodes thing, where he's put together like the list that he wants of the people that he wants to wrestle, like Cody did when he first left, and it is that point at the moment where he can basically just charge whatever he wants, and people will pay it to see these dream matches. And like you said, I'd be very surprised if he does go somewhere, and if Punk's got like the itch that he wants to scratch, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't the guy that he ended up having the match with.
I overall, again, I alluded to the NXT thing right at the beginning. I feel that it's a bit of a ruse, in the sense of there's also been talk of like working relationships with other companies, and I think that like he's got that indie darling kind of background, so he could be almost like the ambassador without the Ferrero Rocher kind of a deal. Like off he goes and sort of builds the bridges and kind of works the matches on those as if he's kind of signed for them instead, but ultimately with a view to coming back to either NXT or Raw, because they were very specific as well that it was that he was gone from SmackDown. Yeah, and that always kind of, it's one of them, innit? You've been watching it.
Angle alert. It's basically that. It's just going off in your head, isn't it, I suppose.
So anyway, we'll move on from that. But yeah, to me, he'll be missed, because I think he's been great, especially like since the turn of the year, and obviously making like the WrestleMania match and stuff and what have you. I think he will be missed. But yeah, we'll move on. But as we briefly mentioned NXT, the NXT Takeover was the In Your House was a great event last year, and it was actually the crowning night of former women's champion Io Shirai. Well, WWE have announced that In Your House will return for 2021 on June the 13th, and just like last year, Todd Pettengill is back to host the festivities. So well played, proper kick in the nostalgia again. So I'm quite happy about that announcement. And then speaking of announcements, AEW have also announced that they're going to make a return to touring shows from as early as the 7th of July, starting at the James L. Knight Center in Miami, and then shows in Austin and Dallas, Texas are scheduled to follow. Not really any mention of WWE following suit as yet. A couple of reports I was reading saying how disappointed WWE will be not to be the first to go back to touring. I think they will not give a flying monkeys at all because the amount of money they must be saving by not doing house shows and stuff and what have you at the moment. I mean, I did actually, because I'm sad, receive a copy of their financial report for the last year. It's actually downstairs ready for me to read. So maybe at another time I can bore you with statistics, but I won't go into that right now. With regards to them actually returning to any kind of touring, again, this is just personal speculation. I wondered if sort of SummerSlam was a good time to return if they're going to do it, because they can kick off with a big sort of fans event, have people live in attendance again for SummerSlam, and then use that to kind of make it big, make something happen. And then
I'd seen a rumour that SummerSlam might be Madison Square Garden. I think that's what I'd seen somewhere on one of the kind of thing. Maybe Meltzer, possibly on Twitter, I think might have been kind of giving that one out. They've, it's a big splash, isn't it? It kind of like, look, we're back and back, kind of back again, back from kind of where we kind of started, kind of the big shows kind of thing.
That's got legs as well, because obviously it was usually billed as almost like the birthplace, wasn't it? Of it's the birthplace of WrestleMania and all the rest of it. So yeah, that could have some legs to it. They have revealed the date though, haven't they, for SummerSlam? So it's going to be on the 22nd of August. But yeah, no venue concrete. But yeah, we'll maybe keep an eye on that. And who knows, maybe we'll have to give Matt a point for predicting that this far down the line, as he absolutely won't need it. But we'll see. So yeah, just before we move on to the predictions part of the podcast, just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to somebody who I've been in touch with certainly in the last few days. Gentleman goes by the name of @thatbackdropguy on Instagram and Twitter. If you might have spotted in previous podcasts, and now that I am a bit of a collector, well, That Backdrop Guy does specialise in doing backdrops for display cabinets and all sorts of stuff. He does some really cool work, not just for wrestling. If you've got any other kind of interests, whether it's like Marvel, DC, Turtles, whatever, go and check him out on Twitter and Instagram. Well worth a follow. And at some point, when I get my cabinet set up with the backdrop in, I shall drop some pictures online, no doubt, as well. So look out for that one. He did message me today. I said we were recording, and I'd drop a little mention in for him and the work that he's put in to turn around my display. I first spoke to him about a display board on Saturday, and it was delivered to my house 4 days later. Like, not a design that he had ready to go particularly. So, well impressed. Right then, WrestleMania Backlash predictions time.
We have to call it that. Can we not just call it
Backlash WrestleMania predictions? Yeah.
Matt he messaged me before the recording to say that I have to mention WrestleMania every time that I say Backlash, because if I keep mentioning WrestleMania, he can channel the power of prediction like he did at the biggest show.
I'm disappointed that you didn't introduce him as WrestleMania Paul and WrestleMania Andy and yourself WrestleMania Stu. King of WrestleMania Matthew. That's what it should have been.
I was a bit worried I might face some backlash, but I'll leave that alone.
Oh,
WrestleMania Backlash.
On a similar vein, I did see that one of the Twitter followers, I think it was the Wrestling Memes Twitters, their Twitter handle, had put out the schedule for the rest of the pay-per-views for the rest of the year, and it was obviously starting with WrestleMania Backlash, moving swiftly on to WrestleMania Money in the Bank, followed by WrestleMania Payback, followed by and so on and so forth. So we got to the end of the year.
I'm not expecting a proper answer to this question, but if they've really thought that through, what's the difference between WrestleMania Backlash and WrestleMania Payback? I'll leave that one with you all. Answers on a postcard, or indeed a tweet.
My God! Is it in? Not. Well, I was going to say Inception, but is it sort of like the thread, so that next time will be Backlash Money in the Bank?
I think
it'll be Money in the Bank Extreme Rules or something like that, and we'll just pass it on. So it continues to roll over.
Too far into the Matrix now, Paul. My brain's exploded.
It's the Money in the Bank payback, which is, hang on a minute, if you're going to give the money that was in the bank back to...
So hang on a second, you are talking about a mortgage there.
WrestleMania mortgage.
Can anybody spell tangent? So, WrestleMania Backlash.
It's the content they've all come here for.
For those of you, what we'll go with Backlash. If I make a slip, then I apologise. But it does go down this coming Sunday, May the 16th, live from the new home of the WWE Thunderdome. And again, forgive me on pronunciation. It's got a strange spelling to me. Possibly the Youngling Centre in Tampa.
So just before you go, is this for the first time ever on pay-per-view from this new place?
Yeah, you could say that.
Well, they're obviously going to say it, Stuart.
Well, as always, the match card is correct that I have in front of me at the time of the recording, but as per WWE, is always subject to change. We've currently got 6 matches confirmed for the card, so let's get into it. The first match on my list is Damian Priest versus The Miz in a lumberjack match. The continuation of the Mania storyline, Damian Priest has continued to have to deal with The Miz and John Morrison pretty much weekly since WrestleMania, and this time without the help of everybody's favourite Bad Bunny. Damian Priest faced off against John Morrison on Raw this past week, and the winner was allowed to pick the stipulation for this weekend's match with The Miz. After accidentally costing Morrison the match for the second week running, Miz now finds himself in a lumberjack match at the request of Damian Priest. Damian Priest told WWE official Adam Pearce his choice, declaring, "Bring superstars from Raw, bring superstars from SmackDown. Hell, bring zombie aliens if you have to." Not quite sure about that one. Whatever floats your boat, mate. But will The Miz have any plans up his sleeve to counter the constraints that have been put on with the lumberjack match? What I should say, what are we going with? But I should also, at this point, introduce, by way of submitting the predictions beforehand, we do have a brand new, first time ever for Paul, guest predictor, Mr. Mike Jowett. So he hopefully will be listening along to this. He has submitted, and he's even gone into the detail of giving me if he thinks it'll be a pinfall, submission, or DQ. I mean, no particular extra points for that, Mike, but I'm happy that you were so specific. It was maybe the way I phrased the messaging to him. Who knows? But yeah, seeing as he is brand new, let's get his prediction down and out there first. He's gone for The Miz to win. He did say by pinfall, but Mike's card on the table, nice and early. He is going for The Miz to beat Damian Priest. Andy?
Yeah, me too. Me too, please. Wait, not that. Me too. Just the Miz for me.
Okay. You are in the book, Mr. Williams.
Could not disagree anymore.
Quiet you.
This is where, let's be honest. Damian Priest, definitely the sort of guy that Vince will be pitching a bit of a tent for. Got the size, he comes across on the camera really well. Decent promo, good in ring. Why would you have Miz beat him? Although at this point, I do wonder whether The Miz pissed in someone's cornflakes or something, because he had the Money in the Bank, won the belt, had the belt taken off him 2 weeks later, and then he's just basically back to where he was before. So he not bothered.
He did have that really good special on the network though, that was about essentially bigging up all the hard work that he's put in over the years. I mean, great timing on WWE's part, because they could have put that out the week that he won the title, but whatever.
Exactly. That was like you said, that was very good. Just to me, it's another one of those ones where beating Priest wouldn't make any sense. It put his character back to unnecessary steps for me. So, Priest for the win, please.
Okay. I'm going to jump in there as well with Paul for the exact same reasons. By this point, does anybody really care about the Miz's win-loss record? He's there for Miz TV more than anything at the moment. Damien Priest, however, is still feeling pretty new, so I think he needs it more. So I'm going for Damien Priest. And then as the reigning predictions champion, Mr. Moore can weigh in last on this one.
I've gone with the Miz because I think they're going to drag it out even further. I think they're going to keep on dragging the storyline out. You know, there'll be chicanery with the lumberjack kind of thing because Morrison will be in there, and they'll probably get Maurice out there as well, and there'll be a bit of. I think they'll drag it out for one more match, one more pay-per-view.
I suppose at some point he needs to have. He's had Raw matches against the Miz. He's had Raw matches against John Morrison. If this is his pay-per-view match against the Miz, then he'll have to have a pay-per-view match against John Morrison at some point. So maybe you've got a point there. Right, we'll move swiftly along to the next match on the card, which I've got down as the SmackDown Tag Team Titles match. It's the Dirty Dogs, Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, current champions, defending against father and son team of Dominic and Rey Mysterio. After missing out on the main card of the WrestleMania pay-per-view, Roode and Ziggler are finally getting their chance to shine on the pay-per-view stage this weekend. And this, I'm sorry, I feel like we've mentioned it a lot already, but can the Mysterios become the first ever father and son duo to claim tag team gold in WWE? If they do, as well, this is just as an aside, this is no points, but this is probably, for me, probably about the last thing on Rey Mysterio's list of career goals that he wants to achieve. So if this happens, can we see him retiring sort of anytime soon?
No.
Will Roode and Ziggler spoil that plan?
I think for me, there's only one way that he's going to retire, and for me, that's he gets into a program against Dominic, and then Dominic's the guy who retires him. But then
we've been saying that for
I've
about
always thought this, but then that automatically makes him a heel, and obviously, if he's going to take over from Rey Mysterio, arguably the quintessential babyface, it's not easy to do that. I was absolutely convinced that's what they'd do, and now I've talked myself out of it, so I don't really know what I'm saying anymore.
Oh, well, does anybody want to hit us with a prediction first up?
I'll go first. I think it's going to be the Dirty Dogs. I think they're going to keep it on Roode and Ziggler.
Okay. All right. So from last prediction to first prediction this time is Mr. Moore in the book with the Dirty Dogs. Andy was eager to get in there, so you can take next pick, Andy.
The Mysterios for me, please. I think this is going to be the start of a bit of a run down that route that, as Matt was saying, we've been talking about for a really long time. They need the titles to start the storyline rolling, so that Dominic can ultimately turn on Rey. Because then it just makes it that they can do the whole the tag champions that don't get on sort of matches and stuff like that. But I think they need to win these titles to start this storyline moving.
Okay. Paul, have you come to a conclusion, or do you want me to leave you till last?
I kind of like Andy's thinking. It just dawned on me then when he was talking about him Dominic turning on Rey. I thought he was going to say he can turn on his dad, and I was like, well, they've got the ready-made storyline there that he's not his dad, isn't he? But I think they will get him. I just don't think they'll get him now. So I think this could be the start of a bit of a program between those two teams. But I'll go for Roode and Ziggler to retain.
Okay. Mike has gone for the Mysterios to win, and that balances this prediction finally up until my point at 2-2. I am also going for the Mysterios to win, tipping the scales in that favour. My reasoning for this is not actually to do with either of the two teams particularly. I should have maybe given you guys this info first if you didn't know already, but this past week on SmackDown was the return of Jimmy Uso. Now, Roman Reigns and the family will predominantly be the front and centre of SmackDown for the foreseeable future, as it has been for the last however many months. But Jimmy coming back into the fold, they've instantly created the story of Jimmy's not acknowledging him as the head of the table and all this business, which we'll get to all that a bit later on. But also how much Jey Uso wants to win the tag team titles again with his brother. They ain't going to win them tag team titles off Rude and Ziggler, for me. They're going to win them off a babyface team. So I think Mysterios will pick up that. And I think that ultimately then they'll be the ones to lose to the Usos on the basis as well they can push it. It's like family versus family kind of a deal. So I'm pinning my hopes on Mysterios this time around for the points for the title anyway. Right then, third match on the card is I've got down as the Raw Women's title match. We've got Rhea Ripley going in as champion versus Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. I really didn't want to give a build for this match. I just wanted to use the Tom and Jerry meme that does the rounds every time Charlotte hears that a new women's champion has been crowned. If you don't know what I'm talking about, have a little look online. But every time somebody else gets the title, she's just there. She's just waiting. After missing out on the WrestleMania card, though, the Queen is back to reclaim her throne, and she's interjected herself straight into this rematch between the WrestleMania opponents for the Raw Women's Championship. The narrative that's been pushed over the last few weeks as well is that Flair seeming to have WWE official Sonya Deville in her pocket a little bit. Charlotte Flair was suspended for attacking a referee indefinitely, only to be let in the back door the week after by Deville, who then reinstated her. She then complained in front of Deville that she wasn't in this title match, and Deville added her to the title match. Obviously all the time claiming it was nothing to do with what Charlotte had said. So yeah, I suppose in a match now, not only with the triple threat rules, but seemingly with an official in the pocket, any chance that Rhea's going to hold on to the title past this weekend? Oh,
when you started speaking and you were like, I didn't really want to give this one a big build-up because I'm just putting absolutely everyone down for Charlotte Flair and moving on immediately. And then you didn't go down that route. So I was like, well, this is very strange. Why are we even talking about this match? Surely Charlotte Flair, rinse and repeat, move on. No?
Well,
look at Paul's face. Look at Paul's face. He's itching to get in with the. That's not happening.
Right.
It's not happening.
Even they aren't stupid enough to absolutely kill this character. If they've spent all this money and time, sort of building her up, bringing her up to the main roster, giving her the match against Asuka, who hadn't lost the belt in 200 odd days. Then even they are not that stupid.
Who are you talking about? You're not talking about the WWE. The phrase, even they're not that stupid, does not come into this situation.
You remember right at the beginning of the podcast where I said this is the 33rd episode?
Yeah.
We've been doing this. We're into our third year now, and you realise how many times they've already been that stupid within this time period.
Every single.
Listen. This isn't just any old Backlash. This is WrestleMania. They aren't going to waste a title change or just a WrestleMania Backlash. No.
Maybe
I'm not having it.
Stu.
Maybe the WrestleMania Backlash that's been provided is the fact that Charlotte wasn't on the WrestleMania card, and they're not only going to give her the title match, they've essentially named her the pay-per-view.
That's the workaround, isn't it? She was like, I wasn't on WrestleMania. Like, we'll call it WrestleMania Backlash. And then technically, you were sort of on WrestleMania. Yeah, that's fine.
Stu, just stick me down for Charlotte Flair, and while you're at it, just stick Paul down for Charlotte Flair as well, will you?
Not stick Paul down.
Put Paul down for Charlotte Flair. Absolutely, he loves it.
Okay, so just to clarify, then, I mean, I'm not sure it came across. Andy, Charlotte Flair, yes.
Let me just double. Yeah, actually, can you put me down for Charlotte Flair? Did I not get that across? Did you put Paul down as well?
Well, I'm waiting for confirmation. I'll take it from his face that he wants me to put Asuka down. Yeah. Okay, so Paul's in the book as Rhea Ripley.
Thank you.
There we go. Mike has also joined you, Paul. So at this point, it's 2-1 against on Andy's clean sweep prediction. But yeah, Mike has also gone for Rhea Ripley to win by pinfall. I'm assuming it would be a pinfall on Asuka. Matt, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I've gone Rhea Ripley as well.
You're all mental. I mean,
if it was Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair 1-on-1, I'd 100% pick Charlotte Flair. But I think they're going to work it some way that she defeats Asuka. Asuka's kind of booted out to the side, and then she's left to kind of deal with Charlotte Flair from there.
I was really on the fence about this one because when I was writing the match card out, I was very much in the camp of Mr. Cook, in the sense of, here we go, that's it, game over. But the more I thought about it, the more I actually agree with what Matt's just said. They need the rematch from WrestleMania 36 at some point, and why not be at SummerSlam? So they'll build that up, I think. I feel, I don't know, it may even be before that, but purely from a points perspective, Andy, if Charlotte does win, you're in.
I was going to say, I didn't realise you guys didn't like points. If I'd have known you were anti-points,
Wait, come on a minute. I think, I can't remember exactly how many, but I think I quite enjoyed somewhere between 10 and 11 big juicy WrestleMania points, which are like double. Like 22 points.
Look at him getting his WrestleMania
throwing his
penis
title
out.
weight around. How many points did you say you got, Matt?
11?
He got 10, so I'll let him off. I was going to accuse him of overinflating then.
Overinflating.
For that little outlet, for that little outpouring of
nasty.
hatred.
What was that?
You.
What?
Doing Matt a disservice. He said 10 or 11, and you were like,
well, and I've openly said, and it's on the recording, that I was wrong and he was correct. So I believe these are yours, Paul. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can have one back and stick it in the team.
Right then.
Neither of those are my points that you're chucking around.
It's a different kind of point, but it's
feisty in here tonight, boys. It's feisty. I feel like I may have started something here. I might have to rein it back a bit.
I've got brand new internet. I'm not cutting out at all, and I don't know what.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry, we missed that, Paul.
Yeah, we should have apologised to the listeners that they're going to have to put up with Paul for the entire podcast for a change. Anyway, shall we move on? I feel like that blurring out machine for YouTube's going to be working overtime on Andy's end after this. So from one women's title match to another, the SmackDown women's title match this time around is the newly minted champion Bianca Belair, not versus Sasha Banks though, versus everybody. Well, no, let's face it, Paul's favourite female wrestler, Bayley.
Ding dong, hello.
After probably what was arguably the match of the Mania weekend, as we discussed last time out, it seemed to almost be full steam ahead between, full on rematch. Here comes Bianca and Sasha again. But after a couple of seemingly disgruntled promos on SmackDown, Banks has just been nowhere to be seen since, and don't really know why. Not sure about that. Whether she's got some sort of extracurricular like, you know, activities in a galaxy far, far away or something to sort out. Who knows? But I guess we shall see. But stepping in to take the mantle and to chase the SmackDown Women's Championship, as we mentioned, was Paul's favourite, Bayley. This is now essentially a battle between the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion in history in Bayley and the new Est title holder in Bianca Belair. Who comes out on top? I can tell you what Mike's picked, because Mike has gone with Bianca Belair. So he's picked both of the new title holders to hang on.
Yes, please.
Paul's jumping all over that bandwagon.
Yes, please.
I'll have a slice of that as well, please, Stu.
The Fresh Princess.
Matt, was that an agreement from your good self as well?
Yeah. I mean, out of the two, Rhea Ripley's the more likely one to lose, but the amount of build that they've done on Bianca Belair, then for her to lose, you know, a couple of weeks later.
Agreed.
WrestleMania Backlash kind of thing would be just bizarre.
So, after last time, and Andy giving it, oh, Charlotte's going to be in everybody's prediction, you could have done that this time, because every single person has picked Bianca Belair. Yeah, that was a very, very quick prediction. I can't see it going any other way, to be honest. I think it'll be a good match. They've got a bit of history. They had a bit of a set to on SmackDown in the build to the Royal Rumble. It was kind of like Bianca Belair's first real kind of like rivalry, I guess, on the main roster. So they've got a bit of background. I think it'll be a decent match, that one again. So from the two women's title matches to the two men's title matches. First on my list is the Universal title match, which is Roman Reigns going in as champion, defending against Cesaro. Cesaro interrupted Reigns, I think it was the SmackDown after WrestleMania, pushing for a shot at the Universal title. But the head of the table was refusing to acknowledge him. It didn't even give him the time of day. Like, Cesaro came out, made the challenge. Reigns just wandered off. No words. Off he went. And kind of that disrespect as well is after a number of high-profile victories of late for Cesaro. Obviously WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, and then over the now departed Daniel Bryan. This past weekend, WWE hosted a throwback edition of SmackDown, and Teddy Long returned as the general manager of SmackDown for the night. Didn't make Cesaro go one-on-one with The Undertaker, or put him in a tag team match player, but he did make him go one-on-one with Seth Rollins once again. And as per the stipulation that Teddy put in place, if Cesaro was to win, he would earn himself a title match. He did, and here we are. But can Cesaro swing the Universal title away from Roman Reigns? Where are we going? Oh, I feel like this might be just the same as last time, where I build it up and everyone's just like, yep, done now.
It's that standard, isn't it? Like, obviously, they've got their favourites. On the female side, it's Charlotte. On the male side, it's Roman. I don't think he's losing. If he's going to lose the belt, he ain't losing it until SummerSlam at the earliest. And I think we even covered in the podcast. It was either I can't remember if it was the Royal Rumble podcast or if it was the WrestleMania podcast, but I think we each said that Reigns would probably end up losing it to someone like not an established star. You'd imagine it would sort of come as a bit of an out of left field loss. I think it was you that said that, Stu. It'd need to be against someone who, like, you probably wouldn't expect it to be. I'm not saying that Cesaro isn't in that sort of ilk, but it just doesn't seem like it's the right time for him to take the belt. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I have a theory. So we've all seen before that Cesaro was going to be the next big thing, and it was going to be the Paul Heyman guy and all the rest of it. I mean, this is going back like nearly 7 years, well, about 7 years now, and it just fell flat. Absolutely fell flat. And I think at the time it was probably not because of anything in ring. He was obviously put with Paul Heyman because he needed that guy to be able to be the voice. He doesn't need that now. He's developed on the microphone. He's got more about him in that respect. And I think that this is the start of a prolonged build. I'm not saying that Cesaro's above the Intercontinental title at all either, because I would absolutely use that in the build. But I think there'll be some sort of almost like crushing way that this match ends, whether it's what seemingly is now the passing out at the end of the guillotine submission, to then fuel him to like work his way back up to that level. And if you listen to the last podcast again, if you haven't, you can do it. You can go and like and subscribe and all that stuff. Then I said that they're ultimately in the long build for Reigns, and it's going to be him versus Rock the Dwayne Johnson at some point.
You're utterly convinced by this. I just don't see it happening.
You know how I'm gonna put this out there now. Like, you know how one thing we haven't talked about is that this is the first time in a long time we've done predictions, and you guys, particularly Matt and Andy, aren't going to get the chance to say the most dangerous three letters in all of sports entertainment because he's not even on the card. So, like Matt and Andy normally pick Randy Orton if he's involved in anything. I mean, that guy could be involved in a raffle and they'd still pick him to win. I'm going to pick Roman Reigns in every title match that he's in until the point where he faces The Rock, and if that never comes, then I'll just keep picking him until he loses it to somebody else. But that is where this is headed for me.
I think aside from The Rock, I think the only way he's going to lose the title is in like a fatal four-way, like a three-way dance kind of thing. He's going to lose it by
without losing it.
Pardon?
Without losing it, like
yeah,
he won't be beaten to lose it.
He's not going to be the one that eats the pin. If it's not The Rock, then he's not going to be the one that eats the pin, unless it's you know what the list is. It's The Rock, it's John Cena, it's the previous cash cows that are going to beat him, because he doesn't look bad being beaten by those ones.
What's this? Goldberg's booked.
Next time they're allowed into Saudi Arabia or something like that, then...
I mean, that guy is a bigger belt collector than Kenny Omega, really, and come on, let's be fair. Every time he's in a match, apart from when he faces Drew, obviously, but,
Kenny's got a sweet 3 belts at the moment. Nobody gives a shit about it. Oh, sorry.
So Mike, unsurprisingly, much like the rest of us, has picked Roman Reigns. Can I just get a confirmation that everybody is indeed picking Roman Reigns for this one?
Yes.
Yep. Right. Okay. Moving on then.
Just before you move on, I don't know anyone else. I don't know if this is the sort of the time to bring it up, but for me, there's only really 2 people who, at this particular point, are like in the running to win the Money in the Bank. And I think it's Cesaro and Big E. And I think it will end up being one of those 2 that end up taking the title off him. I think I said this around the Royal Rumble. I think this has to be the year that they push Big E to that next level. Because if not, he's just never going to get there. And I think that was sort of like... That 24 that they did on him was... excellent,
absolutely,
and showed that he's. I think he's been ready for a long time, but I think it just shows that he's definitely at that stage now where he's due a run with the main title, and I think he'd do really well with it personally.
I agree, and I think like now's the time as well, based on the current crop that they've got. They're going to need to start. To me, they've proved this with Drew as well. They're gonna need to start pushing those people that haven't had that run before, because they're still leaning towards being heavily reliant on the experience of the past, like your Randy Ortons, like your Edge in the main event of WrestleMania, like we mentioned, Goldberg they bring back for the nostalgia, whatever. If they don't start doing that kind of stuff now with the new guys, when those guys can't come back and do the run-ins, what are they going to do? So it's a bit more deeper rooted, for the future as well. I agree, and I would love it. Absolutely love it if Big E got the Money in the Bank. I think because of the positioning at the moment, if it was going to be one of those two out of Big E and Cesaro, I think Big E's more likely to, because they seem to do that thing, don't they, where like somebody gets shit on for a while and then all of a sudden they've got the briefcase. And normally it works better if it's a heel, but Big E's kind of got that big enough personality that I reckon he could carry that off.
They'll kind of New Day it up, won't they? Kind of, yeah. Maybe they'll turn it into a Nigerian drum or whatever that'll be. But I think,
they'll turn it into a pedalo or something like that he can ride to the rig.
He'll have a spare briefcase that's got pancakes in it.
Oh, God.
I mean, that'll genuinely happen if he wins it. He'll run down with the Money in the Bank case and someone will replace the contract with pancakes and, you won't be able to cash it in today, kind of thing.
If you've only ever listened along to Getting Over, I absolutely implore you to have a little look at the timestamp on your device right now. Go and find that time, around that time on the YouTube video, and just see the utter joy on the face of Mr. Andy Cole. He loves him some New Day.
He really, really does.
Buccios for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I have a feeling that the only videos that's going to happen is us off the podcast if we keep pushing that.
You see, I'm pretty sure that I have made it very well known that I'm a reasonable fan of Big E, even though he is attached to the New Day. I saw something in the last week that apparently he's been setting bench press records in a gym.
I like bench press records.
And the pitch, I just saw the article, but the pictures they were using of him, it's like, he is a big man. He is
a hench dude.
He is a large gentleman.
When they were coming up with his ring name, it didn't really take him very long, did it? It's like, what's your first name? Oh, Toru. Yeah, we can't use that. Big E. You actually are. Yeah, that's it. Job done. Didn't take him very long at all, did it? Anyway, right. So, final match on the Backlash/WrestleMania Backlash card is the WWE title match. We've got another triple threat on our hands this time around with Mr. Bobby Lashley going in as champion, or as one of my 5-year-olds likes to say, Bobbly Lashley. I think that's harder to say, and I don't know how he does it, but it still makes me laugh every time. So Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman versus Drew McIntyre. Drew once again earned the right to compete for the title by beating Braun Strowman and Randy Orton in a triple threat match on Raw after WrestleMania. That was kind of set, I think, at the time to then just continue their feud between McIntyre and Lashley. But just to freshen it up a bit, they've decided to introduce Strowman into the mix as well. Now, as we all know, Strowman absolutely demolished Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Shane McMahon, the height of the competitors you would think of WWE title level, but whatever. Braun's now set his sights on his first WWE title reign, and the loss in that aforementioned triple threat has not deterred him. A couple of weeks later, Strowman beat McIntyre in a match to earn his way into this headline triple threat match for Backlash. There was a bit of shenanigans because they've been using the team formerly known as Retribution to kind of get involved a little bit in some of the matches that have involved Strowman and McIntyre. And I get the feeling that they're still to decide whether or not they're going to align those two with Bobby Lashley and MVP or not, or just maybe it's even with Strowman or someone else who's a bit of a curveball, I'm not sure. But they haven't been seen for a couple of weeks, despite getting heavily involved in matches between these three guys right at the beginning of setting this match up. So whether or not they're going to be due back to sort of, stick their noses in it, I'm not entirely sure. So triple threat. who's coming out with the title? Mike has gone for Bobby Lashley to win straight off the bat.
Yes, stick me down for Bobbly, please.
Good old Bobbly.
And me, please.
And me as well.
Wow.
This is another one where if he doesn't have a long run with it, I'll be annoyed at this point, because they've built him up as such a huge monster killer that if he loses like a quick one to somebody, it'd just be like you just wasted 6 months of build there. So he needs to hold it, and he needs to hold it for a long time, like potentially even like Royal Rumble next year.
Just as a quick scan of the predictions so far, as that concludes the predictions, because everybody, for the record, has picked Bobby Lashley. Not one, there's no. Go on, Andy. What?
I'm pretty sure there's a clear distinction with who's absolutely winning the title.
Well, not one person has picked the exact same as another person, so that's usually a good sign. However, I'm sure there'll be some sort of shenanigans that means that ultimately everybody draws, and we're going to need some kind of bizarre 5-way decide a question next time out. Who knows? I have let Mike know, as always, if he does beat us on the predictions, there will be a wrestling related prize headed his way. That is not just an invitation that's open to Mike, that is an invitation that is open to you, the Getting Over listeners and viewers. If you want to get involved, you want to be the guest predictor next time out, give us a shout. You can leave some comments on YouTube, you can get in touch on Twitter, or any of the social medias, really. Just, get in touch, give us a shout. Like I said, that does conclude our predictions, which leads us into the final bit, which we always like to do, the any other business. I am all out this month, gents. I have nothing else. Anybody got anything?
I've not got anything.
Alright.
Nada.
Okay, I suppose that's it. That just leaves me to thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much for listening or watching along. Thanks to Mike for jumping in with the predictions. Thank you to our very nice, very evil friend, Mr. Danhausen, for introducing the podcast at the top of the show. And thanks very much. Enjoy the weekend and enjoy your Backlash, WrestleMania or otherwise.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Another one done. What do you reckon to our predictions? I mean, other than the fact that I'm absolutely winning this one. Yeah. Big thank you to the Getting Over crew for doing this one and for predicting what's to come this weekend. If you're watching us on YouTube, you got to see our special introduction from Danhausen, and you got to see our lovely faces. You could also get the opportunity to drop us a comment, but first, make sure you are subscribing. If you're just listening to us, that's fine, but if you could also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, that would be amazing. So that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.